Welcome to NeuroNoodle's Neurofeedback and Neuropsychology Podcast, featuring tech legend Jay Gunkelman. He's the man who has read well over 500,000 brain scans, and Dr. Marie Swingle, author of iMinds. Our goal is to provide information and promote options for better mental health. The NeuroNoodle Podcast is supported by listeners and businesses just like you. Jay Gunkelman.
What's left of Jay Gunkelman? You know? What's that?
Do I hear Sky?
Well, he's right here, and he's been begging for treats. So if you hear him in the background, begging, it's just him begging. It's not me delivering; it's him begging. So he already got his treat for the morning. So,
but we did talk about on the show last night about brain temperature. How does temperature affect the brain?
Not well. When your surface body temperature is about 82 degrees. People with sympathetic overactivation have peripheral cooling because of vasoconstriction from sympathetic nervous system. As you can see, the beggar is here.
Yes.
And the brain needs to be cooler than that. If you get your brain up to 82 or above, it starts to have difficulty functioning. So, personally, if the room is over 76 degrees, I'm starting to have difficulty. I'm not well. So it's a tough thing to tolerate. But
what's happening?
Well, all the neurochemistry has to rely on ions and cell membrane transfer of sodium and potassium, and all of that starts to go wonky when things get hot. So it's at a electrochemical nerve membrane level that start to have difficulties, and that's foundational for function. So it's not just the brain, it's also peripheral. So people that overheat, if your core body temperature goes too high, and above 82 is too high, I mean, your core is at that temperature, you're going to be having real difficulties. So if it's cold, on the other hand, your body will tolerate that to a point. You start to generate your heat by shivering, which is muscle. Metabolically, you're burning a little bit more energy, you're creating a little bit more heat, but that only goes for a certain point, and at that point you have difficulty on the cold end of it as well. In EEG, the temperature, if you're deciding brain death, has to be determined to be normal. Well, reasonably normal. There's, your core body temperature being cold ends up making the reading invalid. So you can have a artifactually low voltage from hypothermia, and that's a brain temperature, not necessarily something that you look and see the person. You've got to actually do a temperature scan to make sure that the person's got appropriate level of temperature. You can't determine brain death with temperature variation or if they've had significantly sedating medication. Benzodiazepines a little bit if it's overdose, yes. But if you're given a barbiturate of any sort, the scan has to be scheduled for when that has metabolically been burned off.
So HEG neurofeedback and whether increasing frontal lobe perfusion affects high theta.
Well, you're training to increase perfusion. You're not necessarily training to create hyperperfusion.
Uh-huh.
And if you're hypoperfused, the brain is idled excessively, you need to activate it slightly. Hypoperfusion is the theta frequencies and the alpha frequencies that are slower than 11. If you start to get faster than that, you're starting to get into the 11 to 16 neutral positive perfusion. It's above the mean, but it's not at 2 or 3 standard deviations. So that relationship ends up being one that has to be looked at. You you're looking to create more perfusion, like above the mean, like the SMR frequency range, up to about 16, the lower beta frequencies. But if you start to create hyperperfusion, you're causing difficulties as well. It's always good to look to see what's going on before you just slap on something to change brain function. If you're full of beta, you're not going to be doing well if you increase the perfusion. If you're full of slow alpha, it's probably a good thing to a point. And if you're not looking at the EEG, you can judge it symptomatically. Is the person doing better, or are you overdoing it? But it's hard to judge symptomatically versus actually looking at the EEG. So,
God frequency, Schumann resonance. Ask Jay.
And who said something about it being printed on the inside of my monocle?
I don't know. I don't know who would have said something like that, Jay.
Look at you. Look at you.
I'm not nearsighted. I'm fine.
Well, if you got a regular monocle for regular stuff, most all the monocles are for magnifying and reading. Very few of them, relative to how many monocles are out there, are for nearsighted looking at distance. In fact, I had to find a nearsighted company in Los Angeles, and they make monocles for people with nearsighted vision, and you send in your prescription, they send you a lens. Um, so there's been a lot of stuff about it's not just the God spot, it's the God's spot, so that you're not picking on one religion versus another. You've got lots of gods in there, and it's not just that frequency. If you look at their claims, first of all, if you start to make claims of you're going to manifest your desires, I see that a lot in the people trying to market meditative states. You're going to manifest, money or power, or and if that's your motivation, good freaking luck. You're not motivated in a proper way at all. But if they have to dangle some golden carrot in front of you to get you to snap at it, to actually do it, maybe it's not that bad a marketing technique. But so previously they had a God spot, on the right temporal area. They found a spot, but hospitalogists looking for the spot in the brain aren't really looking at modern neuroscience, where networks have replaced focuses. Even in epilepsy, they used to think, oh, where's the focus? Is the thing that's causing the epilepsy, that little focus. But it's a network property. And it makes as much sense as going with a trencher to cut out a slice of the San Andreas Fault to stop it. You can't do it locally. It's a network property. You can't cut it out. It's not there. It's everywhere in there. It's and that's why surgery for epilepsy has such a horrible track. Well, it's, if you're desperate and you've got intractable epilepsy, you will do anything to stop it. And surgery, the little kind of a lumpectomy instead of a lobectomy, ends up having only a 30+% success rate for dropping your seizures by half. So it's not really an appropriate approach. Try neurofeedback before you do neurosurgery, please. We have good success with people that have been told your only next step is surgery, and we've got them seizure-free and medication-free. So, think about it. The meta-analysis for neurofeedback for intractable epilepsy shows over 70% success. Compare that to 30%. I think there's a difference there that might be significant. I'm not a statistician, but just my core sense of it, 30 is not 74. So which is what the Gabriel Tan et al. Meta-analysis showed. There's other meta-analysis that show about the same success rate. But why meta-analysis? Because you got a bunch of really small studies. There's no massive study with hundreds of people with epilepsy because there's no funding for it. These are all individuals or very small groups that have been put together by the therapy team. So it has to have a meta-analysis to see the effect properly. But one of the highest levels of proof in neuroscience is a meta-analysis. You're looking at the summation of a whole bunch of studies that all have some level of control. So you end up with a better idea across multiple studies. You don't have one study that ends up driving the outcome. So God's frequencies aren't one frequency. 900 and something hertz isn't some magic thing. And they say it's related to the Schumann resonance. Well, it's a Schumann resonances, plural, first of all. It's not one frequency. It's a whole bunch of frequencies that are related to each other mathematically. If you start with the Schumann primary frequency, the base frequency, people usually pick 7.83 is classic. We found 7.81, but we didn't have the resolution of being able to pinpoint to the tenth of a hertz quite as accurately as one might like, because your resolution isn't taking 100 seconds of perfect data and looking for the 0.01, 1 in 100. So you have good resolution for your 0.1, 0.3 difference. Your length of your epoch just determines your resolution. And with a 4-second epoch, you got quarter hertz resolution, plus minus an 8. So in fact, we had difficulty publishing the study. The Journal of the Society for Scientific Exploration has a journal, and we submitted it there. And the journal's editor said, well, how can you give us 7.81 when you don't have 100 seconds of data? You can't get that resolution. And I said, well, that's not how you get resolution in QEEG. And he was adamant that we had to have 100 seconds of data and I argued with him for a brief period. Then I said, I think you're too stupid for me to publish in your journal. I'm going to take it to a different journal. You don't know what you're talking about. So, here I am presenting it to you, and you don't know what you're talking about. So either you get an expert who can tell you really what's going on, or it goes somewhere else. And he said, oh, no. Publish it here. He brought in an EEG person who said, yep, it's the epoch length. Gee, why would I know? Anyway, so it's not just 7.83. It's harmonics of that and harmonics of those harmonics. So it's got resonances, plural. And the 40 hertz range is the fourth harmonic of it. The low, you could have subharmonics as well. They report 3.5, but I think the resolution is not all that good. So 3.5 is like 7, but 7.81 is not that far off. The resolution is wonky. So they gave within a hertz accuracy. So anyway, it's not a God thing. It's a natural physics thing. If you want to tap into the overall frequencies that you're immersed in, you've got to be tuned properly to really tap into it. And if you don't have the right frequency, you don't tap into it. And all you have to do is get your tuning right, and suddenly you're hooked into the network of all of these frequencies. So it isn't really a God thing. It's just a natural physics thing. You're resonating with the earth. What is Schumann resonance? Well,
what is it?
Imagine a lightning strike a gigantic lightning strike that has gamma waves shooting up and lightning coming down. And they see that from space. They see these big, shoots of light coming up from the Earth. Rings the bell of the Earth. You have an ionosphere that's electrically conductive. You see it up there. You see the northern lights and probably southern lights. So they're there. I've never seen the southern ones. I've seen the northern ones plenty of time, but I assume this other one is there as well. You basically end up ringing the bell. You have a conductive plane on either side of a semiconductor, the atmosphere. And if you look at a conductive plane with a semiconductor in between, that's a capacitance, a capacitor. And if capacitors have resonant frequencies, if you ring the bell, you get all the harmonics. So it's simply a natural property of the Earth to have the Schumann resonances, the resonant property of our Earth. Now, healers, when they're doing their healing, generate that frequency. And it can entrain other people to be tuned properly. How do you heal somebody? Well, you have to connect with them. How do you connect? Well, if you create a large standing potential, a standing wave, if you've done wavetable experiments, you've got a little tray, and you can make a wave in the tray, and you've got lights, and you can shine the lights through, and it shows the dark and the light of the waves. And if you hit the resonant frequency of the little tray that you're doing, it looks like the waves are standing still. Now they're not. You're making a wave at the frequency, and it's riding on itself. So if you hit the resonant property of the chamber you're in, you get the harmonics. Now, an opera singer hitting the resonant frequency of the room amplifies their voice because it rides on top of its frequency. So as a healer, if you generate the primary frequency of 7.83, you're creating a standing potential. You're in a capacitive chamber that has a resonant frequency. If you make that frequency, you create a standing wave. Imagine you're a swimmer in this tray, and you've got these waves that are standing there, not moving. Where will you be? If you swim really hard, you might be on a not in the bottom, in the trough. But you will be entrained into the frequency that the standing potential creates. So the healer creating that frequency, 7.83 plus all the harmonics, actually creates standing potentials that entrain the healee into the frequency. We published that study. That's the one that was difficult to publish because the journal didn't have depth understanding of EEG, QEEG. But then who does? It's hard to find people that really know EEG at that depth.
Hey everyone, if you're enjoying the show and want to help us keep it going, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Your support helps improve the content and brings on great guests and grow the show. Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/NeuroNoodle. But hey, if supporting financially isn't in the cards right now, no worries. You can still help us out for free by liking, subscribing, and sharing this episode. It really makes a difference and helps more people find the show. If we've earned it, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. What was the name of the study again, Jay? Like what year, so I can pop it in?
This was Bill Bankston, who was the healer. I can pop up the study here, healer study, Bankston, and do a screen share. So this is Journal of Scientific Exploration. And this is 2010, and Healing Connection, EEG Harmonics, Entrainment, and Schumann Resonances. So Luke Hendricks found Bill Bankston, who's the healer, and he contacted me asking me if we could do an EEG study to see what the EEG in the healing process was. And I told him, okay. we assume it might be similar to consciousness stuff and has cross frequency stuff, and we're going to need a special amplifier, not a regular EEG that only goes to 70 hertz. So we ordered a 202 out of Russia, and Yuri sent a 202 over for the study. It goes up to 150 hertz, so we could see gamma 1 and gamma 2 and higher frequency resonances. So using that, we had the healer and the healee hooked up, and we were watching their EEG. And this has got a lot of blah, blah, blah talk first. This is the healer sitting there doing nothing. His alpha frequency slightly faster, about 11 or so. And you can see 11 and 11. This is a bispectrum. And the bispectrum, basically, this is 11 is hooked to 11. There's no other frequencies really related to it. Well, look at the spectra. It's a standalone, it's like that, So it's flipping us off. But let's see the healer when he's actually doing healing. Oh, this is the primary Schumann frequency. Look at the harmonics. The primary frequency, you can see the harmonic resonances, plural, and look at the cross-frequency coupling. So this is the primary frequency, this is a harmonic, and if you did faster stuff, you'd see more harmonics. So you can see, lots of frequencies here. And what happens, this is the healer, this is the healee, the subject. And we've amplified the subject because the EEG had very little of this activity. So this is magnified. You can see the very thick line. This is the healer, and when he hits the frequency of the Schumann resonance, initially they're out of phase. But as soon as he's making the Schumann, you can see the phase is the direction. The healer is going up, up, and this is down, down. They're exactly out of phase. Less than a second later, they're locked in. Look at the size of the EEG. Remember the opera singer riding on top of itself? Well, this is the amplification of being tuned in and riding on top of the natural harmonics that are present. He created the standing potential, and it forced the person. Well, if you actively resist, you can swim really hard and not be in the trough. You can resist this, but if you basically allow the Schumann resonances to tune you, this is what happens. And you can see the big, again, less than a second or so later, you get boom. They're now tuned exactly in phase, and that amplifies their signal. So if you hit the Schumann resonances, plural, you can actually entrain people around you to be in them as well. Now, this connection happened at a distance. It'll happen if they're sitting next to each other with hands on, but this happened at a distance. They were down the hall, couldn't see each other at all, and not only did their EEG synchronize, but their EKG did as well. We didn't publish that part of the study, but anyway, this is the connectivity between the healer and the healee, and they force the resonance, but it's not necessarily, it's a connection. We know. We don't know if it's the delivery of the healing. We know it's the connection. If I call you on the phone and you pick up the phone, we have a connection. We don't have a conversation yet. There's no delivery. There's just a connection. We know this is the connection. We don't know if it's the delivery. We hypothesize that the higher frequencies are probably here as well, and that study would need to look at the frequency spectrum in a higher resolution than what we looked at for this study. And we've got that data. We haven't had anybody that was interested in processing it to that extent. So it's a high level of analysis. Dirk de Ritter's group had a possibility of interest in it, but he's busy with other things, and I don't want to pester him with one project versus another. He's got plenty of things to do. So, but we've got multiple observations of this. So this is not a unique thing to this one subject. Now, they had a healer in they had a worldwide at a certain point in time they're all going to try to heal this guy, and their image was lightning. So odd, but
Shocking.
the image of the people who were imagining the healing was to do lightning thing. So they they recorded the person a 5 minute baseline and two 5 minute periods, and they asked me to identify blinded which period they actually did the healing in. So what did I do? I looked for this. This is what you look for, the cross frequency coupling. So I just turned on the bispectrum and scanned through the data and said, oh, none in this half, lots in this half. They healed in this half. So I just looked for this and I told them, oh, that's where the healing was. They were all excited. They said, oh, this is great. We can tell people. I said, well, for God's sakes, this is the odds of flipping a freaking coin. So this is not impressive. This I could have guessed and had a 50-50 chance of guessing this, and you would be all excited because I made a blind wild guess. I happen to have a theory, and an understanding of what might be happening, but it's still not impressive scientifically. Next time you do a healing, give me a base period of 9 segments and do healing in 2 of the 9. And they said, "Oh, that's a really good idea." The random number generator will pick which one of the 9 we do the healing in, and you won't know, and you can look, and if you can tell, then we really have something. So they sent me the data, and I mean, is it hard to see this versus this? How difficult a task was that? Oh well, gee. uh, Duh, this was a piece of cake guess because we simply looked for the resonances, and if they were there, it was the healing epoch. And 2 out of 9, we got that correct as well. Now they were really excited about that. I don't know what they did with the data. I don't care. I mean, this is a bit of nothing. It's not it's not difficult. Anybody could look at this if they know the bispectrum. I mean, this is frequency by frequency, and if the frequencies are related, they're connected. And what we have is cross frequency coupling between multiple frequencies here, and our resolution got it up into the 40, 50 range. But again, uh, uh, the harmonics here drop down in intensity, and we were looking with the Fourier, which gives us this. Now, we could be looking with other techniques for higher frequencies that don't have difficulty with high frequencies. The Fourier, uh, high frequencies that are there in brief bursts, like gamma. Imagine the Fourier window has a burst and then nothing, and then a burst and then nothing, and then a burst and then nothing, and the window has got a bunch of these. Well, if you have some and none and you average it, how much do you have? Not much. So if the Fourier gets smaller and smaller and smaller as you get up into high frequencies, and it has trouble resolving them because they're brief bursts of gamma. These don't happen continuously, they happen in brief bursts. And as such, it takes the Hilbert transformer wavelets to see them accurately, not the Fourier. So we'd have to use totally different techniques. And again, I said Dirk would be able to do this. They look at the low frequency stuff with the EEG, and they look for high frequency stuff with again different techniques. And the Hilbert transform is one of these nonlinear analytic techniques that was originally popularized by a professor at Berkeley, who's passed unfortunately. And but these, we all get old and pass. So
So why do they call it the God frequency though, Dre? For somebody just tuned to this podcast, they're like, all right, neurofeedback, I figured out what that is. And why do they bring in God into it?
marketing. It's really a great marketing technique. You're gonna manifest your desires. Oh, what do you desire? Well, depending upon what you desire, it may be more godlike than others. Oh, you want money. Oh, you want power. Oh, you want whatever, some bauble of some sort. And if that's your motivation, good luck. You're not going to end up manifesting everything you want because of some EEG thing. I mean, tapping into the underlying frequencies of the universe, you may end up changing what you desire. I don't know. You know, uh, if you change what you desire, you might manifest it. So, um, anyway, I think it's really good marketing, but the God spot wasn't a spot, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's I think an interesting concept if you look at the underlying natural physics of it all. But if you start to sell it as a religion, it starts to get a little. Uh, uh, why do they say it's the God's spot, plural? They don't say God's spot, they say God's spot. Again, if you're marketing it and you say it's God, which religion is it?
Uh-huh.
Which one of these many gods are we talking about here? And you're going to piss off somebody and attract others. So it's gods, plural. And that's going to put some off that think it's only one God, that might put them off. But yeah, other people will not really catch the S. They just go for the God. So anyway, I it natural physics of it all end up making really good sense, and you don't necessarily have to market uh, in a religious way to end up seeing this, and the harmonics and the ability to actually use it for interactive between individuals. I mean, healing isn't something that's done by the person who's receiving it. It's the relationship. Again, it's not one or the other. It's the relationship that ends up being the thing that does this. It's not the healers doing it and the healee doing nothing. They have to entrain. If they are actively resisting it, you can swim hard and be on the slope or on the top, but in a normal nature, standing potentials entrain. You know, Tesla created standing potentials and lit up lights at distance without a wire hooking to them. He would light up the
Mhm.
lights at a distance, creating standing potentials. You have to position the lights properly. You can't, just randomly position them. You've got to pick spots that are going to be resonant nodes. So anyway, it's not that mysterious and everything. It's just nature, but you can market it any way you want.
Well, that was the leading question on our Q&A that we have every 6 p.m. Central Time on Wednesdays, Jay. And anytime the term God comes up in neurofeedback, Jay Gunkelman, your image appears. And,
So
and
that's really bizarre. But people will say what they say.
that's great.
The QG certification board has been invited to do a brief presentation at the Suisun Summit, and so we invited their executive director, and she sent me a, a, a email asking if it was okay for her to do the presentation she was planning. I said, first of all, I don't clear presentations before they're given. You present your stuff. I don't tell you whether it's okay or not. You present it. I'm not.
It's your fault, not mine.
It's not. Yeah, I'm not the boss of things. For
Yeah.
God's sakes. If you've been invited to present data, come and present data. So, so she's going to come and talk about the history of the QG certification, and she has a slide that Jay Gunkelman, the godfather of QEG, and it's a puppeteer manipulating about the bunch of things. She said, "You were there on the initial board of directors. You wrote the first exam, and you're our first emeritus. You're first one to retire." And and so, like I said, I told her, well, I'm not going to tell you whether it's okay or not because you present what you present, and but I tell you one thing, I'm going to cry. So I'm a sap. I cry at comedies, cartoons. I mean, it doesn't take much to get me to be drippy, and if I cry, it gets my eye patch wet.
Yeah.
So, just take that into account. And she says, it's okay. Mary gave me a red and a black eye patch. I'll have a backup for you. I said, it's okay. I already have a backup. During the day, if something triggers it and I'm
Right.
drippy and it gets wet, I can't sit here all day with a soaking, drippy, wet eye patch on. So I've got a, just barely out of reach. I got a backup here. So, uh, don't, don't worry. You present what you present. Yeah, it's bizarre, but
Yeah.
but beyond that, I mean, it's what you want to present, and it's funny. So you know, and I'm the last one to ruin a joke. That so
And Jay, you brought
she.
up the Suisun City Summit there. What are you talking about?
Well, I've got two brief talks. Well, they're not brief. The first one, I'm actually just also present for the presentation, and that's a presentation yeah, by Isabella, who was the intractable epileptic young tennis player who's now a tennis pro and seizure free now over 7 years. And she's going to come and talk about her experience of over 350 sessions to get seizure free. What was it like as a subject, not the trainer but the trainee? And what was that like? And so I'm there to present EEG stuff, and she's there to talk about her experience. So that's one talk. The other talk is on consciousness and cross frequency coupling. Gee, cross frequency coupling and consciousness. And that's my second talk. And don't this is going to be in that talk, but it's not the only thing in the talk.
Right, right.
So uh, uh, yeah, feel free to come and catch the last of it. The we're filling up to the point of the people who sign up at some point are going to be told we're full. And if there's a cancellation, you can attend, but you instead of full fare, you for $350 you get all 3 days video live stream. So um, the yeah there's going to be some people I think that are uh, just delaying the payment that end up being surprised that
Right.
they'll be able to attend at a distance instead of being there in person. So, um, but that's you know, Suisun's a little tiny town, and the hotels that we have here don't have meeting rooms that are big ballrooms. They have a little 35 person meeting room, and so we use the yacht club, and it seats 80. And it's an easy walk from the hotel, and so we use it. There's other spots in town, but you'd have to be able to drive from the hotel there, and it's more difficult. So uh, the yeah, we're in the yacht club, and it's 80, and when it's 82 or 83, you don't get in. So um, it that's just the nature of the spot. We're in a small town, and people come from all over the world to be here, and um, hopefully the ones who traveled a great distance have got their ticket already. So
Well, Jay, thanks for hanging with us, answering the questions from our Q&A that we have every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Central Time. The God Complex.
no,
Jay
just
Gunkelman,
nature, just nature.
just nature.
You don't have to religious in it.
All right.
It's okay if you want to be religious. It's okay, but it's not a necessary part of understanding this. So.
Well, Jay, feel better. We'll talk to you not next week, but a week from today.
Well, it's I fill my time with wandering thoughts. Uh, uh, one thing about wandering thoughts. if you work really hard and you get lots and lots of information in there, what you know already kind of structures the information you put in. If you loosen your relationship between everything and you let things create couplings and patterns that you don't see already, that requires you to be loose with your wandering thoughts. So imagine that you're a chemist coming up with what is organic chemistry, the structure of carbon and carbon bonding to itself. And you're working hard and all these linear combinations of the angle of bonding for carbon, and you're focused and you're working hard and you've got all these linear models and you can't quite come up with how it works. And you're going home, you're on the streetcar in San Francisco, and you're a little sleepy because you worked so damn hard, and you get kind of mind wandery, and your mind wanders, and you start to see little fuzzy balls in the fall, and you're just kind of a dreamy state, and the little balls stick to each other. So there's two of them, and the third one sticks to it, and they suddenly there's six of them. They play crack the whip, and they actually create a ring. Bing! You wake up. God dang it! It's a ring, the carbon ring. So you had to let loose of what you knew to find out what you can know, and you've got to have the time to have loose thoughts. Let your mind wander a bit, and it connects things. You derubricize. What the hell is derubricize? A rubric is a category or a name. And if you've got everything categorized, you already know all these categories. You have to loosen up your connections to have new connections. Mm-hmm. And so the mind wandering is you think, oh, it's a waste of time. You're just wasting your time. You're sitting there doodling and mind wandering, but if you've worked hard and you have information in there, that mind wandering can put them together in new ways. Now, if all you've got is trash in there, you can hook up new things of trash. But if you work hard on something, you have to derubricize your knowledge to let new connections occur.
You got to break that routine.
Yeah. So, time to whack yourself upside the head without actually traumatizing your brain, theoretically, or image of yourself whapping yourself in the head. So,
Jay, I'll see you next week.
Yeah, well, I don't always have mine on because at the computer it's close and it's only for distance. In fact, if I can touch it, if it's closer than my personal space of the area around you can touch, then I can't see well with it. But if it's distance, I see really well. So if I'm at the computer, I can't use the monocle. Right. So it's just in the other room right now.
Just proving to my wife I don't need glasses. Jay Gunkelman.
By the way,
yeah,
very, very clever with the that I have a longer chain because I have to get it out of the way of the beard.
Yeah, right.
The chain I've got on here is just ornamental. And this would be a stretch to have something. Yeah. So it requires a couple
links
bit longer
on there, Jay. You'll be good.
Yeah, people that have them and use them as a quick look kind of a thing, and that a little longer than your chain, usually hang down close to their belly button. And
okay,
yeah, and you're picking it up from there.
Well, some guys need to use that when they go to the bathroom. The chains are out of the way.
So I pick it up, I slide it to one side to get it out of the beard, and then put it in.
Lock and load. You're such an influence on me, Jay.
The beard is probably going to be auctioned off. I've grown it. You can see the wild hairs all the way down to my belly button. So bring your spare change. There's going to be an auction.
2001.
Yeah, 2001. It'll be required because I'm going to put 2,000 down to keep it, and the bids are going to have to be bigger than that in order to take it away.
October 8th, see you there.
I don't grow it because I think it looks great. I just hate to shave. So, I trim the sides because I I in Australia, I didn't shave anything. I didn't trim the sides, and I had what they called a bushranger beard. uh, so it was a bit more, and this I just trim the sides to keep it from being a bushranger beard, but it goes long. So
Jay, get some rest. Enjoy the weekend. Take a week off. See you in a couple weeks.
I'll take the week off next week. Everybody who consults with me, I'm taking the week
off.
So.
We'll let that on post. Bye, Jay.
Pete told me to take the week off. So
take 2 and call me in a week. Bye, Jay. Hey everyone, if you're enjoying the show and want to help us keep it going, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Your support helps improve the content and brings on great guests and grow the show. Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/NeuroNoodle. But hey, if supporting financially isn't in the cards right now, no worries. You can still help us out for free by liking, subscribing, and sharing this episode. It really makes a difference and helps more people find the show. If we've earned it, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. The NeuroNoodle Podcast is supported by listeners and businesses just like you. Hey everyone, here's a quick message from our good old buddy Joshua Moore at Alternative Behavioral Therapy.
I'm preparing to do an introduction to QEEG phenotypes. This is my first workshop on the topic, and this is just the introductory overview of the project. This is going to be very, very basic. So let's review each phenotype. We're just going to go through them one by one. If you look at the DSM-1, 2, or 3, and you look at the first chapter, it actually acknowledges that the DSM in mental health is just, quote, a descriptive adaptation, unquote. We're going to customize the interventions and tailor them to the individual's brain activity, not just applying the treatments or trainings to the individual's phenotype and maybe even their variants, but also customizing the protocols themselves to fit that person's individual unique frequency patterns. Maybe a dozen ways to have excessive energy in your nervous system, and then there's an infinite amount of ways to relate poorly to that excessive energy, which means that there is a lot of variations in what someone might call anxiety. And that doesn't mean that we're talking about the same thing when we're talking about anxiety. So complicated stuff. But when we look at a brain map, we get some basis at which we can start talking about what is this energy. Then we have to go to the client. We have to start talking to the client about what is your association to this specific kind of energy that I can see now. Then we get to care about things that insurance doesn't restrict us on. We get to care about like the person in a broader way. 85% improvement in mental health report following pairing a medication with a specific phenotype. Geez. Okay, have you seen 85% in any mental health studies for any medication? I'm going to be going over a whole bunch of different types of tests, assessments, and things that can be used that have things called neurocorrelates, which you saw some of those already, better success outcomes. That's what we really want. We need better predictive power. We need better individualization. That's what we want.